Hi, and welcome to CryptoBiography. I'm your host, Brandon Starr. This is episode 238 of CryptoBiography, and it is part 6 of the Isle of Bronze. And Nasramin is about to have a meeting with his son to see what his son had found from the meeting with the Thebans earlier in the day. And here we go. Well, son, let us find out what you saw today. Shugo looked a little nervous. He sat in his chair like a student in front of a difficult tutor. Looking back on the meeting with the Thebans, who was the most powerful person in that room? You, he said without hesitating. Nasramin chuckled. I suppose that's possible. But let me put it this way. Who is the most dangerous person in that room to me? Shugo thought a moment. Then, also you. This time it wasn't just a chuckle, but a bark of laughter. I see that I've sired a philosopher. Yes, of course, one's own mistakes can be the most dangerous to anyone. But outside of me, who was the most dangerous person in there to me? Shugo thought a long time. Finally, he ventured, Queen Callis. Not a bad guess. Her demand, which we will discuss shortly, certainly put me in a corner. And her gifts could be taken as a threat, the one that can also be taken as a warning. No, the most dangerous person in the room to me is Linus. Shugo tried not to show a surprise and thought about this. Finally, he came to the conclusion that he needed help. Why the High Priest? 2 reasons. First, he heads up everything to do with religion. If he decided to and was given an opening, he could get the people of the island to rise up against me. You? Yes. The people are content for now, but they are a sleeping giant. If they ever awoke and were driven by the High Priest against me, there would be little I could do. And the other reason? As I think you know, I don't believe in our religion. Shugo nodded. If that ever became public knowledge, that by itself could be enough to awaken the giant, and Linus would not hesitate to use it against me. Thus, I always maintain my public adherence to all religious tenets. Despite this, Linus has become aware over time that I do not believe the stories. This shouldn't be too surprising to him, as most leaders do not believe in religion. It is a useful tool, mostly for keeping the people in line. But it is a double-bladed tool, and if not wielded carefully, it will cut its user. Now, I don't know Linus's heart. He may be faithful, and sees my non-belief as an affront against the gods. Or he may be like me, and simply hates me for the same hypocrisy he feels in himself. Worse, because he is the mouthpiece for the religion, and also because I have more power than he does. Also, I have not quite paid him the full respect he feels he deserves. You see, while I pride myself on my forward-thinking ways, I've fallen down in this, possibly because I was embarrassed by my own hypocrisy, but I didn't treat him the way he wanted to be treated. I should have. It would have cost me nothing, and kept me from making a powerful enemy. But it is likely too late now for full reparations. I will try, however. It is too important, and the actions that occurred today make it more important than ever that I not create enemies I do not need to. I will try to give Linus every accolade he feels he deserves, and hope his feeling towards me thaw. If this error ever causes you problems in the future, you have my apologies, son. Shugo started. He had never heard his father apologize before. And really, he couldn't think of a time when he should have. Of course, father. Now, I trust you understand the importance of finding cheap steel weapons laid at our feet? Yes. It will change everything on Limos, and unless we are very, very careful, it can only mean change for the worse. We also have Queen Callis' surprise to discuss. What do you think of it? I think it's fair. She wants her daughter to have a chance to become the Queen of Limos, so she brings her over just before my Unity search. But then he stopped because Nasramin was allowing a small, wistful smile to creep past his beard. Shugo thought a moment. Oh, no. Callis means for Theodore to be the only one I really look at during my Unity search. That is exactly my thinking. But the unity search is a sacred rite. It's important. It's why we don't have a bunch of inbred leaders like Thebes itself, and all the other Hellenistic city-states, not to mention nearly everywhere else. And you want a chance to sow your wild oats and visit women across our island. I didn't say that. When you jumped to tradition as your first defense, you did. Clever as always, Father. Shugo looked unhappy. Nasramin stepped forward and put his hand on his son's shoulder. I understand. You hear the stories of unity searches, and they sound fun, exciting, hopeful. You want the same. You expect the same. But occasionally, circumstances change, and we may have to change with them. Shugo looked up sharply at him. Nasramin could tell his son was angry. I am not saying you have to marry Theodora. We may find a way around that. However, it is likely that if you turn her down, which is how Callus will take any arrangement that doesn't end up with her daughter as queen, we will have a new enemy in Thebes, which is to say, someday you will have a new enemy in Thebes. So, if you find some other woman, realize that part of the price of marrying her will be the ire of an entire city-state. Here's what I suggest. First, there are 2 months before your unity search. We will be looking for new information on the state of iron and steel. It's possible that Thebes was bluffing and hoping to get us to agree to a marriage despite their weakness. If, however, they are strong, it adds to the value of a marriage to Theodora, and to the cost of turning her away. So we shall see on that front. Also, look into your own heart. What do you want from a marriage? If you simply wish to bed young women, well, the unity search is your time to do just that. And afterward, if you marry Theodora, you may find that the allure of new women isn't so strong. Perhaps most importantly of all, it may behoove you to give Theodora a strong chance. Get to know her in the next couple of months. What kind of woman is she? Would you be content with her? Would she make our island stronger? Who knows, but if you fall in love with her, all these difficulties will simply blow away in the wind. Shugo was nodding now. Your words make sense, Father. I cannot pretend it doesn't irk me that I may not have a proper unity search because of the meddling of an outsider. But all you say is wise. I wonder if Asasi will have a normal unity search. Your brother is just as likely to take up the priesthood as to look for a wife. He's so devout. Are you angry at him for being so religious? Shugo asked. No, Nasramin said. No, but it does make me wonder about his future. Perhaps he's using religion as his way to rebel, since he isn't first in line for the throne, and he knows or senses that you aren't religious. Nasramin smiled. Perhaps you're right. But let us return to the subject of you. In 2 months, if Thebes has been confirmed as an important potential ally, would you be willing to forego your unity search as a means to find a wife and accept Theodora? Don't answer now, he said, as Shugo made to speak. Think about what you want your kingship to look like, what you want it to accomplish over the coming days. When the information is in on Thebes, you may have a difficult or an easy choice to make. Much of the difficulty in that choice will depend on your point of view. He waited until his son had thought about this, then nodded. He gestured towards the door, and Shugo exited. He took a deep breath, all alone in the council room. He intended his words to plant a seed in Shugo's mind, to make him think about the future and what the best action would be to make that future a good one, rather than the short-term pleasures he might find. He thought, as the footsteps of his son faded out in the hall, that he had been successful. Then he thought more on the dinner with Callus, Theodora, and his own family. He had not seen his younger son or his daughter yet today. It was time to rectify that and fill them in on the information they would need to get through the dinner without causing further problems. He left the council room, and his guards fell in step behind him again. He went back to his chambers. As soon as he entered, he pulled the bell to summon the head servant, Dimethine. Mawaya looked at him a little curiously, but did not ask why he was summoning him. She seemed to think she would find out soon enough. Dimethine entered soon after. He was elderly, and had been the head servant for longer than Nasramin had been king. His thin frame and almost bald head, fringed with white, followed its aquiline nose into the room. He was such a familiar sight that Nasramin had dropped most formality with him, at least in private. "King?" Dimethine asked. "Lunch will be soon. Please make sure my younger son and my daughter are in attendance. I haven't seen them today, and I need to speak with them." "Very well. I've already started the kitchens on preparations for tonight's meal with Queen Callis and Theodora." Nasramin had been certain that Dimethine's ears among the household would have told him, and was pleased. "Thank you, Dimethine. Do you anticipate any difficulties?" "None, sire. The meal will be excellent, and I will make sure that the sort of wine favored by Thebans is served." Nasramin knew that this meant a strong wine stored in barrels that was then diluted with water. It wasn't his favorite, but it was to the Hellenistic palate. "Excellent. Any special dishes you desire?" Nasramin glanced at Mawaya, who shook her head. "No, thank you, Dimethine. We will trust your skills." Dimethine gave a small bow that was practically a nod, turned, and left. Nasramin knew that the evening meal and his request to see his two younger children at the lunch table would both be taken care of. And that's the end of the show for this week. Hope you're enjoying it. If you have any comments or questions about this episode or previous episodes, cryptobiography@gmail.com, or hit us up on Facebook or Twitter, and thanks for listening. Words and music copyright 2022, CryptoBiography LLC, all rights reserved. Characters and events are fictional, fictionalized, or satirical.